Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Holy crap, Janet.
I saw it go, I saw it go, I saw it go, I saw it go.
Maybe you could pull this for one of our bump musics.
Damn it, Janet.
Yes!
Yeah.
I saw it go, I saw it go, I saw it go, I saw it go.
Damn it, Janet. I love you. Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristin Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. It is March 2nd, Thursday. Welcome to the second half of the week. This is As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry, and she is Jane Madnair. How you doing this morning?
I am great, my friend. Happy birthday to my oldest friend, Beth, and known each other since second grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I had a couple weeks ago, one of my oldest friends who lives in Madison. She drove down, and I think I've known her since I was 5.
Wow.
We went to elementary school together. We got really close, like 8th grade, and all through high school we were like best friends. But we went to Throw, and then we went to Queen of Peace together. And so she now has a 4-year-old. And I remember when we were all hanging out, she's like, I've been friends with Kristin since I was your age. I was like, well, that's weird to think about.
That puts it in perspective.
Yeah,
Eh?
absolutely. All right. Well, we have a very good show for you today. Coming up in the noon hour, we have 2 different guests. The first half of the noon hour, we're going to be talking to Talis Shelbourne, who is an investigative reporter for Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And she did a really interesting piece. And I can't wait to ask her why she chose Maryland or how it came on her radar. Because Milwaukee, we always hear of Flint, Michigan when we think of lead pipes
And bad
and
water.
bad water. But Milwaukee still has a lot of lead pipes. And there is still an unacceptable amount of lead poisoning in Milwaukee. And it seems like a very slow pace at which we are trying to fix it.
Yeah.
But Maryland really took a pretty big stand as a state and really increased regulations. And they've been able to, over 12 years, starting I think in the 90s, they decreased lead poisoning by like 99%.
That's impressive.
But turns out the things that they did, we can't do in Wisconsin because of certain laws that protect landlords. So we're going to talk to Talis about what she learned there. And then at 12:30, actually, CJ Safer's coming back because we were cut short 2 weeks ago when he had come on after Governor Evers' budget address to kind of talk about more from a conservative standpoint, what was potential for compromise, what was probably going to be dead on arrival. And one of the things we ran out of time to talk about was the big education piece. And so he's coming back and we're going to just talk about education. And I'm really looking forward to that conversation. And then in the third hour, the 82nd Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel sports show is next week. And I've never even heard of this thing until I moved down here. And so the event coordinator or the event director, Stephen Booza, is going to be joining us to tell us more about it, what's different this year than in the past. But it sounds wild. They have like a retriever contest, archery tournaments. Like, it's not just vendors. Like, there's a lot going on. And so
you're forgetting the most important thing.
Oh, there's a lumberjack.
There's
right?
lumberjacks involved.
Have you ever gone to any kind of lumberjack event?
No. And I would really like to.
Is it Hayward that has the big one?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Because I think that's when we would talk to the Berkey marketing person. She said that they do. I think they also have an event around in Hayward. And is that August? Now we have to add that to the bucket list, Jane.
Another stop on our list.
Another stop on the list. All right. But to get started in our newsy hour, it feels like, I think, probably one of the biggest stories of the day, at least. And this is not a ticked off tee off. I feel like this is a good thing. This is a, even if the ways in which we got there are not, applaudable.
Ideal.
Well, it's like, don't call them a hero yet, but
I think that's a good point.
Yeah. It's about damn time because Eli Lilly is finally going to have a major price cut on some of their insulin. And before we get into the details of it, I had actually forgotten for a second. Remember when Blue Verified first rolled out and you could start paying $8 a month to get a check mark
On Twitter.
on Twitter? And the guy, I think his name was Sean Morrow. Sean Morrow, who paid $8 for a blue check mark in order to impersonate Eli Lilly
Oh,
and announce that insulin is now free.
there were ramifications from
There
that.
were ramifications for that, and the real pharmaceutical company had to issue a correction on Twitter, first saying this is our actual Twitter account, and no, insulin is not free.
Yeah, no.
And but it is still not free. But they also like their stock plummeted when he tweeted that out. Like it was pretty funny. But it is still not free, but some diabetic Americans will soon be able to spend less than their monthly internet bill to pick up life-saving medicine. Eli Lilly said yesterday it would slash the list price for two of its most prescribed insulin products, Humalog and Humulin, by 70%. It also said it would cap insulin costs at $35 a month when people pay out of pocket for this drug. And so there are roughly 8.4 million people of the 37 million people living in America with diabetes that rely on insulin
In order to stay alive.
in order to stay alive. Without it, they potentially face kidney failure or death. And so a reminder that Eli Lilly, they've received growing social and political pressure over the last few years to make this more affordable because it only costs $10 to make.
It's so wrong.
The margins on this are really, really high. And they, since the 90s, this is why I say don't call them a hero. They've certainly made their money on this. Since the 90s, Eli Lilly has raised the sticker price for Humalog more than 1,000%.
Wow. Wow.
So
Just the cost of doing business, Kristen.
just the cost of doing
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
And so this is partially also because if you think about it, some of this was coming down the pipe anyways because of the Inflation Reduction Act, which that part of that included $35 monthly insulin price cap for seniors on Medicare. And in his State of the Union last month, President Biden also called for expanding that cap to everyone. And there was enough, not maybe not enough, but there was some lawmakers who said that they would support that expansion if it were to come up for a vote. And so the company is also likely trying to play nice with Biden and other politicians since it's lobbying for a new bill that would allow weight loss drugs to be covered by Medicare.
Oh, wow.
That's something we haven't even really talked about yet. There's also a different diabetic medicine that people who without diabetes are using as a diet drug.
It's
Ozempic.
Ozempic.
We haven't talked about that. We should talk about that next week
And
because
yes.
that's like people are going crazy for it.
Oh, yes. I know someone who has lost 60 pounds. It also costs, from what I understand, because you have to do this monthly. I believe it's 20 grand a year. Not cheap.
And if you have diabetes, is it covered by insurance?
That I don't know. But at least
Because I have to imagine if you're not diabetic, insurance is certainly not covering it.
yeah. So we will look further into this.
We should look into that because I'm also interested. I mean, is it because it can't just be like the 80s diet pills where it's like, here's some speed.
Take this. It'll be fine.
You'll be fine. You will lose weight, but you will be pretty tweaked out in the meantime. And so, but regardless, I feel like this is a good thing.
Here's my question,
Okay.
though. Why is it only Eli Lilly? There are other.
There's three.
There are 3 manufacturers of insulin.
I'm sure maybe it's because of this diet pill.
Oh, because they want this special
I don't
favor.
know. This is just some of the reporting that I read. Maybe it's someone has to be first. As far as if they do it, maybe the others will follow. I did read something. There was something interesting in the Atlantic, and I'm going to mention it without having read the whole article because what you'll notice is that it's there's multiple different types of insulins from what I understand. And the two that they're slashing the prices on, Humalog and Humulin, are their most affordable ones already. And there was something in the Atlantic that was interesting as far as trying to make the argument that by slashing insulin, it's keeping poor people taking like the more outdated insulin. And like that's kind of that even by itself felt like not the strongest argument because it's like ultimately like, well, people can't afford it. Like the fact that people are rationing this and it's something that they need because it is so expensive and it doesn't have to be this expensive.
Right.
Feels like this is a no-brainer, and I don't really understand any arguments against this. So if you have heard an argument against this
On why we should keep insulin high.
or why we should keep, honestly, any pharmaceutical drug that keeps people alive, that is cheap to make, that has been on the market, they have recouped their costs and this is not even that. The people who came up with insulin sold it for $1 originally. Like
because they wanted everyone to have it.
They wanted everyone to have it. So like even though I don't want to call Eli Lilly heroes, this is a good thing. It's about damn time. But I don't really understand if anyone can think of an argument. You don't even have to stand behind it. But if anyone can think of an argument of why this is not a good thing, or why the pressure for life-saving drugs and putting pressure that have been on market, and so they've recouped their costs from like, research and development, why it's not the right thing to do to make it affordable for people who need it to be able to actually get it. If you can think of a devil's advocate for me, I would love to hear it. 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. We will be back in just a minute. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
You know what time it is. I'm coming out tonight. I'm coming out tonight. I'm coming out tonight. I'm coming out tonight. Woo! I'm coming out tonight. I'm coming out tonight. Okay. All right. It's about that time. I'm coming out tonight. 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 Okay.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen to a podcast of it anytime on the app or our website, civicmedia.us.
Monday morning at 8, don't miss Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring legendary Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Football, life, and fun.
Earl, you've been driving a Yugo. They just gave you a brand new Ferrari with turbo boost. So enjoy it, brother.
Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Monday morning at 8 on the Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK.
Hey, this is Jim Santel. I am the host of Morning Cannolis. Every single Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we talk about the major stories in law, in government, and the aspiration for justice in America. Delighted to have you join, call in, and be a part of our discussion right here on the networks of Civic Media.
Weather on this snowy day in Milwaukee could be brought to us by your pizza delivery business. Can you imagine how many families are snuggled in their homes enjoying hot, tasty pizza? Weather makes the phone ring for just $199 per week. Call us at 608-819-8255.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Highs level off around 37 this afternoon under cloudy skies. Winds out of the northeast, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected again tonight. Lows dip down to about 28. Cloudy skies expected tomorrow. Chance for snow. Highs level off around 34. 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow through tomorrow night. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 30 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, New Berlin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Madnair. And we are talking about it finally starting to happen, that insulin prices, at least from one company, are going to start to come down. And if anyone can think of an argument as why this is not a good thing, 844-967-2789. Because, to a certain extent, I do understand. I mean, I don't think pharmaceutical companies are good, but they do create new drugs, right?
They do.
And some of these drugs probably are not necessary. And sometimes, did you ever read any of those, wow, what was the documentary? It was like Fat, Sick, and Almost Dead or something like that. And it was someone who just had all of these health conditions, and the amount of pills he was taking to solve, there was a pill for everything. There was a pill for your heart. There was a pill for
to sleep.
There was it's like the amount of medications, and I'm not a doctor, but in this documentary, it was the amount of medications he was prescribed from doctors to help with all of his ailments.
Mm-hmm.
And in the documentary, he basically switched his diet to just a lot of green juice, if I'm remembering this correctly. And it was so much had to do with his diet. And he basically ended up being off all of those medications.
That's amazing.
And I just wonder sometimes, it's like, I don't want to totally demonize the research that comes out of life-saving drugs and developments in cancer research and things like that scientists are genuinely working on to solve health issues. And I also think it can be true that some of these companies are just manufacturing drugs that they peddle to doctors to prescribe that are kind of band-aids to the situation and don't necessarily always make it better.
Are you familiar with Representative Katie Porter from California?
I am.
She is famous for having her whiteboard with her when she's either making a presentation or talking to witnesses. And I don't remember which particular drug company executive she had in front of her, but she basically broke down the amount of money they make on X drug, the amount of money they increased the price by, and then the amount of money that went into research and development. And the amount of money that goes into research and development is a very, very, very small piece of that pie. And she also asked, because you are continually raising the price of this drug, can you show me that its efficacy is better? And it's not.
No.
It's doing what it was originally designed to do and it was originally, but it's not performing 100% better than it did before. They just keep raising prices on it.
And that feels like it should be illegal, right?
It seems naughty, doesn't it? Yes.
And yet it's not. And I get the free market and everything, but it's just, and then because then it goes back to this cat and mouse game that whether it's healthcare providers or pharmaceutical companies and what they play with insurance companies. And even in that summary of it will be capped at $35 a month for people paying out of pocket. Okay, so what is it is it going to be more for people who are paying with insurance? Because then you can stick it to the insurance companies
Sure
and then the
sounds that
insurance
way.
companies can pay for it, even though. So at that point, don't you I just don't have insurance cover it. I'll just pay the $35. And so it's like these, and I've heard the same stories as far as what you can negotiate with, prices at hospitals are negotiable. And the ability to, if you go in and say, I don't have insurance, you'll get a different price.
Yes.
Than if you say you have insurance and they have to go through insurance. And it's just so backwards. And it doesn't have to be like this.
Well, and I think at least for me, as the eternal optimist that I am, which is a joke,
Yes.
this is why I'm so cynical when people say, well, corporations will do the right thing
No.
because it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way in practice that we can count on our companies to do the right thing.
No, I mean, think about the story yesterday, which Greg told me was a little bit too information heavy, but trying to talk about the child labor thing. That's a bunch of different companies who are like, oh, if we can get away with it, we're going to do it.
We're going to do it. Yep.
And that, I mean, what's Fortune 1000? We won't even do Fortune 500. Do you think has a clean record of no like EPA violations, no labor violations, no shipping people's jobs to other countries because it's cheaper? Like, as far as the like ideals that individually any one person potentially tries to subscribe to, and when we as a society are like, that's a bad thing. But like, name me a company that's just like on the up and up. For a long time, I really thought Starbucks was up there, but now with all like
Well,
the union busting tactics that they're doing,
Howard kind of blew that.
he really did.
Yeah.
He kind of fell from grace.
And as you say, he was very much, I'll help you go, higher education and we'll help, and it
And
was
they had health insurance.
right. It was all very positive things. And then he just went to the dark side.
I feel like it started when he thought he could run for president as an independent. Isn't that kind of when it started? When everyone was like, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Please rein in your ego, man.
It's not going to end well for you.
All right. Well, when we come back, we will march through some Wisconsin headlines, including Janet Protesiewitz saying that she would recuse herself in this instance. Does that mean anything to you? This is As Goes Wisconsin.
coming home tomorrow. Ain't that good news? Man, ain't that news? Baby's coming home tomorrow. Ain't that news? Man, ain't that news? I got a letter.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Madnair. And I thought we would just run through some of these Wisconsin headlines that I grabbed from yesterday. I'm doing a new thing on the social medias of how Wisconsin went, where it's 60 seconds of just grabbing some headlines from Wisconsin of just
Great.
things that happened today. And so some of this is from yesterday, but this one caught my eye because I feel like we've talked a fair amount about, in the past, there have been justices on the Wisconsin Supreme Court that refused to recuse themselves when there was a clear conflict of interest, because since we elect our justices, those justices have campaign donors.
That's people who give them lots of money.
People who give them money in order to get elected. And you would think that their ability to stay objective, if any of those interested parties were to come before them in court, I get that some people think that they can really toe that line and be unbiased. I'm going to guess it's a lot harder than they think it is once the rubber hits the road.
I think you're onto something there.
And so that was, I think, in that first forum back in January, when all four candidates were in the same place, and actually there was a forum with all of them.
Mhm.
And that question was asked about recusal and having some kind of standard set rather than it just being up to the judge's discretion. And I think Protesiewitz might have been the only one who said, yes, there should be a standard that we're all held to. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the other three said it should remain up to the justices.
In what other world does an interested party like that allowed to make that determination?
I think that the same thing happens on like the appellate courts and circuit courts and stuff.
But I understand this is a court-wide thing, but outside of the courts, the obvious conflict of interest, I just don't understand why there shouldn't be some ruling, some guardrails, or even the Supreme Court, some ethics rules.
Yeah.
Why are you above that?
I know. Well, then maybe you'll like this, because Judge Janet Protesiewitz did say that she would recuse herself in cases involving the state Democratic Party,
Because they've given her money.
because they are her top donor so far.
Hmm.
So she said Wednesday, so yesterday, that she would likely recuse herself in any cases involving the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, one of her top campaign donors, but she would not recuse herself from cases involving other parties that advocate for Democrats, which there are some other groups that are also...
Lefter?
No, just that there's other... I mean, there's more groups than just the state party that is donating to her.
Sure.
But she would not recuse herself for that, and she would not recuse herself for cases if the case for abortion or redistricting comes to the high court. And in those cases, I'm not sure the state of the state party is the one filing,
Bringing those suits,
yeah,
yeah.
bringing the suits anyways. And so I'm not sure that would fall under this. And it's actually interesting because when I feel like my memory of this so often is it's usually Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty representing the GOP going to court. And I have a short memory because, again, I've only been back since 2020. But I feel like I've read, in the time that I've been back at least, I've heard way less stories of the Wisconsin Democratic Party going in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Bringing suit, yeah.
And I don't know if that's just because, I mean, did they do it more when Walker was in office? You don't remember either.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I wish I did.
But anyways, I thought it was just interesting, especially as she continues to say things that I think people would like to have happen. When it's like you have a conflict of interest and she's saying on the campaign trail right now, I would be ethical and not try to rule on my largest donor if I were to win this seat.
And I'm sure that the candidate on the other side has done the same, right?
I actually haven't seen any Dan Kelly news this week. Is there any has he dropped any fun ads or anything that I've seen? But yeah, I mean he's absolutely said that he would not. And
He will
again,
not recuse himself.
no. And again, this is the thing that is baffling to me as they are trying to call Janet Protesiewitz an activist judge because she is talking about her values on her campaign when he is the one. Oh, that is what in the news this week because he's worked for Wisconsin Right to Life.
Yeah.
That I forgot that was this week.
Yeah.
So can't remember what he did. Can't remember what kind of work he
I
did
don't know.
for them.
Yeah, I don't know what they paid me all this money for. They paid me though.
They paid me. I mean, I don't know, but if he's Michael Gableman, it's not like you have to do much to get paid anyways. So
You know, we're paying Gableman $500,000 now.
no, now it's 2.5.
Well, that's the overall thing. But
Okay.
Gableman's tab for the work he did is $500,000.
Yes.
The 2.5 million is what it's costing Wisconsin taxpayers for all of the other legal challenges they've had to fight in their futile attempt to find proof that only the presidential race in 2020, remember that, folks, only the presidential race in 2020 was affected by voter fraud. Not any of the other races
know.
that were on the ballot. Not all the other Republican wins were fine.
And this is a good segue. So let's just talk about the newest bid or the newest tally, I would say, for Gableman's debacle. Is that the best word for it?
Debacle is a good word.
Debacle, embarrassment, clown car show.
Fiasco.
So I saw this
Scam.
I forgot. It was on Instagram. It was just the headline of Robin Voss to pay $135,000 in legal fees to the liberal watchdog group or whatever. It's like Robin Voss isn't paying that.
Not squat.
Why is like I understand that it's good to put his name on it because he is part of the reason for this happening. But he's not paying for this out of pocket. Like his landlord money is not going to pay off these fees. The fees are coming from the taxpayers.
Of course.
And this is one of the most frustrating things. There's so many frustrating things when it comes to Wisconsin politics, but this one is just to have him come up with nothing. For have him to embarrass himself in court the way that he was, like his anger management issues, the way he was a bully, the way that he talked to women when he was on the stand, all of these different things, to come up with nothing, only then to be shut down once he turned on Voss.
Which is the only reason he got shut down.
And then just like, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. We all got to pay for it now, even though this was like a stunt from the beginning. And it's just like, we just have to read these headlines. Well, now I think because the last time we talked about this story, it was $2 million. And this time it's 2.5. And we're like, well, is it just going to keep climbing? And
why not?
And it's also frustrating because, like, I think the liberal watchdog group, American Oversight, like, I think it was good that they were involved and that they were, like, with open records and all the things that they were trying to keep track of. And they really exposed how much of a clown show this was. But also, it's like, well, now we still have to pay for it.
Isn't it interesting how Republicans are so concerned about fiscal responsibility and where taxpayer money is going? Because we want to make sure that our taxpayers aren't being fleeced. And yet in an instance like this, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's all okay.
It's fine.
This was a good use of taxpayer money, even though it turned up nothing.
I just wish he would go away.
Which one?
Well, the one that's more likely, the one who doesn't actually have a job right now.
Oh, that's right. Taxpayers are no longer paying Gableman?
Well, I think he's been paid, right?
There might be some outstanding office supplies he's got to get covered somewhere. Who knows? That could be worth another $100,000.
Ugh. I still can't believe he got elected to a 10-year term with 9% of the electorate voting for him. Because less than 20% of people voted in that spring election back in 2008, and he got a little over 50% of the votes, which means he got like 9% of the people who vote, like of the electorate, voted for him. And then he got to sit on his seat for 10 years. This is why you vote, people.
Well,
April 4th.
And quite frankly, that is one of the goals of civic media, is to explain why these races are so important and what the ramifications are when you don't know these candidates.
Yeah.
It's all about information. It's all about breaking things down.
Well, and because we've already broken the record for this year. We've broken the record for the most expensive Supreme Court race in the country ever. And when we broke it, there was still like 5 weeks left.
Oh, jeez.
There's 4.5 weeks left now, right? Something like that. And there's a part of me that says, like, I don't know enough of what the data says of the correlation between ad spend and voter turnout. And like, if we had record turnout for this primary a week ago. Isn't that wild? That was only a week ago.
That really seems like it was much farther away than that.
I know. A week and a half ago. And it's hard for me not to think that some of it has to do with there's just way more ads than there ever usually is on this candidate or on both candidates on the race. But I don't know. But I want to get to this before we close out this segment, because we've talked a little bit about nut juice and
Yes.
your hatred for the fact that some things can be referred to as dairy, even though they do not come from an animal.
They call it milk, and it's not.
Well, from the same senator who brought you the Go Pack Go Act comes the Dairy Pride Act.
Dairy Pride.
So Baldwin, along with a couple other senators, it's a bipartisan bill, introduced look at the stretch they made to have the Dairy Pride Act still be an acronym. The Defending Against Imitations and Replacements of Yogurt, Milk, and Cheese to Promote Regular Intake of Dairy Every Day Act.
Come on.
D for defending, A for against, I for imitation, R for replacement, Y for yogurt. Then they snuck in milk and cheese. P for promote, R for regular, I for intake, D for dairy, E for everyday. Dairy Pride.
This is why governments never get anything done.
Is every act always an acronym like that?
Jeez.
Do you think that's part of like the application is like, how good are you with coming up with creative names so that it's a really fun, catchy bill name?
It's a whole special subcommittee, Kristin. That's all they do. It's a whole acronym subcommittee. They work on it like crazy.
You think they're all like English majors?
Yes.
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 And so
they were English lit majors.
So it's exactly what it sounds like. So it's basically a bill. This comes down after the FDA had said in their guidance that soy milk and almond milk and all those things can call themselves milk. And now these 4 senators are on a mission to not let that happen, to protect the dairy with this incredible acronym. Dairy Pride.
I support this mission.
All right. Well, some Catholics in Milwaukee will be relieved because they have the cool archbishop. We're going to talk about it when we come back.
Good news, man, ain't that news? Ain't that news? Ain't that good news, man, ain't that news? My baby's coming home tomorrow. Ain't that good news, man, ain't that news? Good news. Good news.
You don't know my kind.
Hey, this is Jim Santel. I am the host of Morning Cannolis. Every single Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we talk about the major stories in law, in government, and the aspiration for justice in America. Delighted to have you join, call in, and be a part of our discussion right here on the networks of Civic Media.
You've got questions about navigating the healthcare system? Kristin Lyerly helps us find answers and discusses other issues at the intersection of healthcare and politics. Hometown Health, Thursday mornings at 7:30 on Up North News Radio.
You know him as the nose tackle for the green and gold, 1993 to 1999, and again 2001 to 2003. 125 games, 292 tackles, 7 sacks, and a Super Bowl ring. But there's more to life than stats, and there's more to life than football. You're about to find out. Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring Packers legend Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Monday mornings at 8 on the Shaw and on the Civic Media app. Weather on this snowy day could be brought to us by your business. Can you imagine how many snow blowers, snow shovels, and snowmobiles are being sold as we speak? Weather sponsorships make the phone ring. Call us at 608-819-8255.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Overcast skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 37. Northeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cloudy skies expected tonight. Lows level off around 28. Cloudy skies again tomorrow. Chance of snow. High temperatures reach up to 34. 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow through tomorrow night. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 30 degrees.
WAUK 540 AM, Brookfield's choice for News Talk Radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Madnair.
By the way, I wanted to share something with you.
Okay.
From the top of the hour, we were talking about lumberjacks because the sports show is coming and we're going to have a guest later on in the show to talk more about some of the things that are going on. But the Lumberjack World Championships, Kristin Bry, are held every year in Hayward, Wisconsin. Started in 1960, 21 events for both men and women to compete for over $50,000 in prize money. And this year, the Lumberjack World Championships are happening July 20th through the 22nd.
I have so many questions. Like, is being a lumberjack a job or a hobby?
It's a job.
Is it a job still?
Yeah, I think it's a job.
Who employs them?
Lumber companies.
They don't have machines now?
Do I look like a lumberjack?
I don't know. Because the only lumberjacks I know, there is this thirst trap account on TikTok of a very attractive man who just chops wood with his shirt off. That is like the closest thing I've seen to like a real life lumberjack, but I don't think he's employed. Like he's just in the woods chopping wood and
shirtless
and gets a lot of indecent comments in his comment section.
Lumberjacks are still a thing.
So maybe I'll take my single sister-in-law up to Hayward and we can try to find her a husband.
There you go.
All right. Well, what's the date on that?
July 20th through the 22nd.
All right. We got to go.
Well, it's on the list.
It's on the list.
It's on our bucket list.
All right. Well, for Milwaukee area Catholics who, really subscribe to the rules, and the rules say during Lent, you cannot eat meat on Fridays.
Right.
So what do you do? Especially if you're Irish.
Right.
What do you do this year when St. Patrick's Day falls on a Friday?
What is it? No corned beef?
What? I mean, right? And who do you cheat? Do you abide? Do you just drink more to get over it? Because that's not out of the rules. Just eating meat.
Right. As much green beer as you want.
As much green beer.
But no burgers.
No. Or no corned beef. Well, if you live in Milwaukee, You're in luck because the Archbishop has said, go ahead.
Oh, it's Archbishop Listecki.
Yep.
It's A-OK. Go ahead and chow down on that corned beef.
Archbishop Jerome Listecki announced Tuesday that he had granted the dispensation from abstaining from meat for St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2023. So you're in the clear. And all I could read, because the headline was, I think not this one specifically, but one of the headlines I read was like, Milwaukee area Catholics can eat corned beef or something like that. And I was like, other Wisconsin area Catholics, SOL.
But where is the boundary?
What do you mean, where's the boundary?
I mean,
is it just corned beef? Or is it like, you can have any meat today?
No, I mean, not everyone belongs to the Milwaukee Archdiocese.
I know. That's why I was confused. It's like, when did you stop practicing?
When I was 18.
Okay, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
And so I don't really know what the hierarchy is, because I feel like with the current Pope,
Francis.
Yeah, Pope Francis, like he's said a fair amount of controversial dispensations. And I don't know, maybe they don't qualify under that, but he has been much more open-minded about gay marriage.
Yes.
He's been more open-minded about maybe not birth control,
but certainly gay marriage.
And so like, what is the hierarchy of who you like? So if the Archbishop says it, does it have to be your Archbishop of like
I would think so.
The chain of command that like your priest at your church reports to? Is that the right terminology?
Well, his superior. It's not like I don't think your local parish priest can make that determination, and it has to come from higher up.
Okay.
Texter from the 920 checking in at 844-967-2789. If you're going to talk about eating corned beef on St. Patrick's Day, the Green Bay Archbishop also allowing Catholics to eat meat on St. Patty's.
I was wondering about that. I was like, all right, so who else I've yet to see any other headlines about this, but good to know. So Green Bay in the clear. I'm trying to think who are the cool archbishops? Like which archbishops like get it? And we're like, yeah, we got it. This is a little antiquated. Go ahead. Enjoy on St. Patrick's Day. And which ones are like, nope, the rules are the rules. And this is what you have to do.
We have Stephen from Green Bay on the phone talking about eating corned beef on St. Patty's Day. What do you want to say, Stephen?
Hey, so I happen to be a practicing Catholic. So Kristin and Jane, I have all your answers on the hierarchy and this corned beef debacle.
Great.
So apparently Jesus is Irish because his rules don't apply on St. Patrick's Day. But anyways, so I live in the Green Bay area, so I live in the Green Bay Diocese, and our bishop, David Ricken, has also written a similar proclamation saying on St. Patrick's Day that we do not have to abstain from eating what they call flesh foods. And my assumption on this matter, based on my knowledge of Catholicism, and it is quite vast because I'm a convert to the church, so I had to take a year-long class to become Catholic, is that the Pope probably signed off on this, and then each bishop in each diocese was probably told that they can discern whether or not they want to let their parishioners in their specific diocese do this or not.
Oh, that's great, Stephen.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of right. It's like, do you have a cool archbishop or not? Right? It's like,
pretty much.
That's awesome. Is it hard for you not to eat meat during Lent?
Not really, because I live in the States that has awesome fish fries, so I don't really mind it.
All right. Well, thanks for the call, Stephen.
Yeah.
So there you go. We learned something today.
Yeah, well, and that's what this program is all about.
All about that. I love that Stephen said that most likely what happened is that the Pope did have a say in this.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was up to the individual archbishops, that it was not, this isn't a rogue situation where they can just do it, like go off
archbishops
on their own. It's that Pope Francis was like, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
But yeah, that's also Joseph McClure just said that the same thing happened in 2017, the last time St. Patrick's Day was on. a Friday. So,
well, because again, as Stephen pointed out, Jesus with his red hair was obviously Irish.
And those freckles. Give that man some sunscreen. It's the Middle East. All right. That'll do it for the first hour. Stick around. This is As Goes Wisconsin.